you want to facilitate the deployment, right? So let's say you've worked on Google Colab or AWS SageMaker or any kind of trained as a service provider, let's say, and then you have your model, right? So how do you make sure that that model goes on a server where it can actually be reached by the other services that the company is using, right? So you want to automate that part, right? To make sure that this process, every time the model gets retrained, doesn't need to be redone manually, which happens a lot. Infrastructure as code, CI/CD pipelines, this is where the typical stuff that DevOps engineers would do, right? You want to reduce the friction in the model's lifecycle. So you need to train the model, you need to deploy the model, you need to use new versions of the model to run it on maybe live data or data that is available at the moment of deployment. And all these things, if they're done manually, they take time, they might be skipped because of deadlines. And depending on the business model, the things that create more friction might be very different, right? So like for instance, if you're running on live data versus if you're predicting on live data versus predicting on data ahead of time, your process is going to be completely different, right? And so also depending on the team, depending on what they're good at, depending on what they've already automated maybe, when you show up, it's pretty simple. You just go ask them like, look, what's costing you a lot of time? What are you not doing because you think it's too long? And then you try to reduce these things first, right? Instead of automating what you think is the best practice, start with the ones that actually cause pain, right?
And if we think about the entire pipeline now you've done your data management, you've deployed, and now you need to think about repeatability of this whole process. And in some cases, some companies have very, very elaborate ways how to do that. In other cases, it's a very manual process, end-to-end, just tweaking everything every other day. But the lessons learned here is that version control, as we saw in one of the previous slides, is something that should cut through all the stages of this process.
You want to make sure that these things are updated. So typical things that you can do is just set up an alarm system. Hey, there's a new update. Or maybe the alarm is not on the model update itself, but maybe the model processed some data, and then you want to let know the relevant people, hey, the data has now been processed, it's different. So maybe you should check it out. Maybe you need to do some verification on the processed data. So all these kinds of things, right?
We are trying to automate the auditing process as well. Let's say some customer asks what happened with our data. We should be able to show them transparently, right? So it's important to audit everything from data angle. So what is happening to data? Where is it going? How is it being used? And what exactly is it resulting in? So these kind of questions.